Welcome to WPRI.com. I'm Tim White, and we're going beyond the numbers with our exclusive poll. We're here with pollster Joe Fleming and our Eyewitness News political analyst. All right, let's look at some of the statewide numbers that you polled on. Again, 500 people were polled in this, registered voters statewide. These are some of the worst numbers on the direction of the state.
Yeah, we're showing only 13% of the state of Rhode Island thinks Rhode Island's moving in the right direction, while 70% feels moving in the wrong direction. These numbers are very low. They're probably pretty much at the bottom. But you have to look at where we're coming from. We're coming from high unemployment in the state of Rhode Island. The economy has not really turned around. We have a budget crisis that continues on every day. It doesn't seem to ever end. So people are not optimistic about what's going on around at this time. So these numbers are not surprising. When we look at all the subgroups, every subgroup, at least 67% of the people thinks the state's moving in the wrong direction. Democrats, Republicans, all groups.
Man, woman, union, everybody. Household, it doesn't matter. Everything's going poorly.
Well, no signs.
If I was a legislator, is that something I'd be concerned about?
I would definitely be concerned about it. If I'm a member of the General Assembly, I would be concerned about that people don't think we're going in the right direction. You could be getting some of the blame for that. And as a result of that, when you come up for re-election in 2010, they could be taking it out on you.
All right, the big guy, Governor Carcieri, he didn't do great in the favorable, unfavorable. He did 40% favorable to 59%, I believe, unfavorable. But really, when you break it down in the budget problems, the economy problems, most people blame the General Assembly.
Right. The governor's favorability rating has been hovering around between 35-40% for the last year or two. So this is not really a surprise that his numbers are that low. His numbers have never gone up recently. But when we ask the question later on who do you blame for the budget crisis, the General Assembly gets the blame on that. They do not blame the governor.
Let me see. We have on that
15% of the people blame the governor, 53% blame the General Assembly, and 25% blame both of them for the budget crisis.
Talk about both. It says here in our results that is volunteer.
That's volunteer. We did not say to the people, do you think it's both of them? We said, do you blame the General Assembly or the governor?
And if someone said, well, I blame both.
We marked it down as both. So that was a volunteered answer. And one out of every four voters said that. They both get the blame for this. But a majority of the people still blame the General Assembly for the budget crisis. And I think part of it is because they don't see it ever ending. They see like the supplemental budget the governor's put out there has been out there for over a month now, and it still hasn't been adopted. So they see this process continuing on, and the whole General Assembly session is spent on the budget.
Does the General Assembly usually do poorly in polls? And if so, how could that affect the perception of Representative John Laughlin, who's taking on Congressman Kennedy?
Well, overall, the General Assembly in polling, if you ask people what type of job a General Assembly is doing, it never gets a good rating. That's the same with the U.S. Congress. Those numbers are always very low. People do not always have a great impression of the General Assembly. In Rhode Island, what has happened in the past is they don't like the General Assembly, but they like their own state rep and their own state senator, and they kept getting reelected. What's happening now is, because of the anger of the voters, that could possibly change this year. The voters might say, look, I got to have a change, and they may change their own local representative. John Laughlin has to be careful of that because he is a member of the General Assembly, and he's running for Congress. So obviously, a number of the votes that he made, I'm sure the Kennedy people are researching already to see if there's any votes they can use against him when he runs. They're going to try to make him part of the problem. The only thing is, the U.S. Congress has not looked at very well either. So it's kind of hard to blame one, and you're part of the other.
All right, page 8 of the survey and the Not a Shocker department, union households aren't exactly a big fan of Governor Don Carcieri, are they?
No. When we did the job rating, it was like 28% of the union families felt they had a positive opinion of the job Governor Carcieri is doing. 71% had an unfavorable opinion of the job the governor's doing. That's not surprising at all. The unions and the governor have been at war for almost 8 years.
All right, the questions regarding raising taxes and cutting spending in services versus cutting spending in services. That was one that we asked. Let me see. Cutting spending in services dominate at 61%. Not much of a surprise there, is it?
No. The voters in Rhode Island are basically saying to the General Assembly, we'd rather see you cut services and cut spending than raise our taxes. So this is what the governor's saying also when he released his budget yesterday. He wants cuts in spending and cuts in services. So I think, the Rhode Island voters agree with the governor on this question.
So how does that play with Lincoln Chafee? His big announcement when he came out and said, I'm running for governor, was that he's going to generate more revenue by increasing some taxes. What does this question tell you about how that...
I don't think that sells well for Lincoln Chafee at all. We only had 14% of the survey who said they want to see the budget problem solved by raising taxes. I think Lincoln Chafee is going to have some problems with this. I think the Democrats, Republicans will attack Chafee on this one question that he wants to raise taxes. They're going to argue there's other ways to do it besides raising taxes. Chafee might say, well, we're going to cut other things, but Rhode Islanders have seen taxes raised in the past when they've said we'll lower the tax back down, like the sales tax, which was raised to 7% for DEPCO, and they said after the DEPCO bonds are paid off, it'll be lowered. It was never lowered. So people in Rhode Island don't buy that. Then they're going to really question Chafee on this issue.
All right. Finally, we asked a question on union influence in the state. What are those numbers?
57% felt the unions in the state had too much influence on state government, and 23% felt it was just the right amount. Obviously, Rhode Islanders feel the unions basically right now have too much influence on government. The governor has said that all along, saying that the unions have influence, and obviously his message is getting through to the voters of Rhode Island on this one question.